In the red earth village of Umuoma, two sisters, gentle Nkiru and dazzling Amaka, share a mat, a mother's memory, and a future that suddenly splits when the wealthy trader's son, Obidi, chooses Nkiru's quiet strength over Amaka's glitter. Envy hardens into a plan, a cup of blessing tea spiked with a forbidden root. On the eve of the bride price, Nkiru collapses, and the village gathers at the river where the ancestors still answer oaths. What happens next turns a wedding into a judgment and a sister into a lesson the whole town will never forget. The road to Umuoma was the color of old fire, red dust rising like fine smoke each evening. When goats came home and women rinsed pots under the last kind light, the village sounded of mortar and pestle, smelled of roasted maize, and wore its stories on the verandas where elders drummed knuckles on wooden stools. Under a raffia roof patched with palm fronds lived two sisters who were born 5 seasons apart but slept with their heads on the same mat. Nkiru, the elder, had eyes like still water and hands that remembered every chore without complaint. Her laughter was quiet, almost private, a thing she saved like coins. She tied her wrapper low and worked with a rhythm that made other people breathe easier. The market women said, if Patience had a daughter, her name would be Nkiru. Amaka, the younger, was a festival walking in daylight. Her wrapper always found the brightest indigo. Her beads caught sun, the way mango skin catches juice. She moved with the confidence of a girl who could borrow smiles from strangers and return them with interest. When she laughed, it was a bell you could not unhear. People said, if beauty had an argument, Amaka would win it. They had buried their mother one harmattan when the air had cut like broken glass. Her last gift was a small brass locket with a faded picture and a proverb scratched badly on the back. Love does not shout, it does. After that, the sisters belonged to each other and to Auntie Neka, a plantain seller whose back bent from work but never from kindness. Into this ordinary life walked Obidi, son of Uzochi the oilman, a trader whose clay pots always came home fat with palm oil and stories of distant markets. Obidi had a calm face and a careful mouth. When he spoke, even stubborn men found their chins nodding before they agreed. He saw Nkiru first at the stream, balance perfect, laughter quick but brief. He saw Amaka later at the market, sunlight applauding her cheekbones, bracelets clapping along. He returned to his father's yard wearing the expression of a man who had met the exact future the gods had asked him to choose between. For 3 market days he watched. On the 4th he spoke, not to the bell, but to the water. Nkiru, he said, standing by Auntie Neka's stall, your name means the future is great. Will you test that proverb with me? Amaka's smile froze the way a festival song stops when a drum suddenly remembers a funeral. She lifted a plantain with 2 fingers and set it down as if it had wronged her. She laughed, just once, then tied her wrapper tighter. Auntie Neka covered her mouth with the edge of her cloth to hide the smile of a woman whose prayers had been seen. We will talk, she said to Obidi, though everyone knew the talking would be short. When a man arrives with character before cowries, you don't make the moon wait behind the door. That night the compound smelled of pepper soup and palm oil. Nkiru washed the calabashes twice, though once was enough. Amaka stared at the locket, thumb worrying the scratch proverb as if she could rub the letters into a new sentence. So, Amaka said, voice light and knife thin, the oilman's son has eyes. For my sister, Nkiru said, smiling shyly, not daring to dream too loudly. Your sister, Amaka repeated, as if the words were gravel. Then she stood, wrapper swishing like a warning. Tell him your favorite color is indigo. Rich men like to think they discovered it. She slept with her face turned to the wall and woke with it turned to a plan. Umuoma dressed herself in celebration. The Igba Nkwu, the wine-carrying ceremony, was set for the next moon. Uzochi sent palm oil like sunlight trapped in pots. Obidi's uncles brought yams so fat they looked like jokes carved by generous gods. Drums practiced their proverbs. The talking tree rehearsed its shade. Nkiru worked as if joy were a song you also had to sweep. She stitched her wrapper, polished the locket, and learned to carry wine without spilling even a shadow. When Auntie Neka teased that Obidi would get lost in her eyes, Nkiru hid her smile behind her wrist. Amaka laughed as too loud. Let me help, she said the next morning, rearranging baskets with a chirp of bracelets. I will make your blessing tea the night before the wine carrying. A sister's hand is sweeter than sugar. Auntie Neka nodded. She trusted the word sister the way people trust water to remember the path downhill. Nkiru squeezed Amaka's fingers. Thank you, she whispered. At the edge of the village, where red earth met a stand of trees that stood like old secrets, lived Mama Oduche, an herbalist who didn't sell leaves to cure shame. People came to her for fever, stubborn coughs, dreams that refused to keep their own business. They also came for things she always refused to give. Love charms are for coward, she would say unamused. If you must force a goat to stay in your yard, you will also have to sleep with its bleeding. Amaka went anyway, late afternoon when the light grew long, and the careless avoided mirrors. Mama, she said, sinking into a squat, I need a blessing. Mama Duce did not look up at once. She sorted leaves with the calm of a woman who had seen babies arrive. Husbands go, rain sulk, and all of it returned to dust anyway. Blessings are plenty, she said finally. Which kind? The kind that makes a man's eyes forget other faces, Amaka said, choosing her words with the caution of someone who knew truth and lies sometimes wore the same cloth. To keep my sister safe from envy, she added, shaping her mouth around the last word like it had cut her. Mama Ducci's hands paused, her eyes lifted, sharp as a hawk's. Your tongue is clever. Careful it doesn't strangle you. She sniffed the air. You already smell of ogwu onu, bitter root, the one that crawls into a person and forgets the door. Amaka stared at her toes. I only want him to look at me once. The river looks at everyone, Mama Duce said, and the ancestors look past faces. She reached for a small gourd, rolled it in her palm, and set it down again. Go home. Boil water. Add lemongrass and ginger and honey. Pray into it for your sister. Don't add anything with a name you won't speak aloud. Amaka thanked her and left. That night she lit a small lamp and placed 3 things on the mat: lemongrass, ginger, and a packet of powder she had bought secretly from a traveling peddler who promised it could turn attention like a goat's head at the smell of yam peels. It is not poison, the man had said, grinning around a gold tooth. Just persuasion. Amaka stirred. The water hissed. Steam carried scents of garden and wrong. For love, she whispered, the locket cool in her other hand. For once. Look at me once. She cooled the tea, poured it into a calabash painted with simple flowers, and set it under the window where moonlight could touch it like a blessing or an indictment. The day before the wine carrying broke open rich and blue. The talking drum woke early. Women oiled legs, rubbed shea into elbows, clucked at children to keep dust off the wrappers that had only just been flattered into smoothness. Amaka braided Nkiru's hair slowly, each plait a history. Drink, she said lightly when they were done, handing her the calabash. For sweetness. Nkiru raised it, eyes bright with a doe's kind of happiness. To sisters, she said. To love, Amaka answered. The first sip warmed like ginger. The second turned the tongue strange. The third never reached her stomach. Nkiru blinked. The room leaned. For a fleeting, foolish moment she thought, perhaps joy is heavy. Then her fingers failed. The calabash kissed the floor, and Nkiru fell as if someone had cut the rope of her breath. Auntie Neka screamed the way a mother screams when the past threatens to steal the future. Neighbors erupted from walls. Someone shouted, Dibia! Someone else ran for Obidi, who arrived with a face that no longer had room for dignity. They carried Nkiru to the breeze's path and blew her name into her ears, as if breath could be coaxed back by memory. Her pulse fluttered, a frightened bird in a hand too tight. The Dibia, lean as a cane, came with cowries that sounded like pebbles tossed into a river that had mood. He knelt, closed his eyes, and listened where others spoke. There is no witch here, he said at last. Only desire with a bad teacher. This is not the kind of poison that shows in the mouth. It is the kind that tells the body to forget its duties. He opened his eyes and looked at the sisters. Nkiru lay waxy and still, lashes quiet. Amaka's hands trembled, betraying a heart trying to dig itself out of its own chest. "What do we do?" Obidi asked, voice stripped to bone. The Dibia pointed toward the path that led to the River of Oaths. "Ogba Miri will decide," he said. "If the ancestors will return what was stolen, they will say it with water." Auntie Neka wrapped Nkiru like a newborn, tears wetting the cloth. The village moved, the way a body moves when a thorn suddenly announces itself, all together, wincing. Drums quieted. Even the market flies behaved like mourners. At the bank, egrets stood like judges. The river was low, stubborn from long arguments with sun, but it still had a voice. The Dibia placed 3 calabashes on the sand, one with clean water, one with bitter leaf crushed to green foam, and one left empty. He drew a circle with white chalk. "Who brewed the cup?" he asked. Silence is loud when everyone can hear what it is hiding. Amaka's throat clicked. She stepped forward, chin high and mouth thin. "I made the tea," she said. "Lemongrass, ginger, honey." "And what else?" the Dibia asked, not blinking. She swallowed. "A pinch of powder to bless her, for love, so love would not forget us." Name it. She couldn't. Persuasion. That was the lie she had bought. What lived in the packet had another name. The kind you don't speak if you have plans tomorrow. The Dibia lifted the empty calabash and passed it to Amaka. "Hold this," he said. "If your hands are clean, the river will keep its temper." He turned to Obidi. "Carry her," he said, nodding at Nkiru. "Let the water breathe on her face, but not swallow her." Obidi stepped into the river. The chill bit his calves, climbed his knees. He sank carefully until Nkiru's hair touched water. Auntie Neka stood behind him, whispering a mother's inventory of bargains with God. The Dibia raised both hands. "Ancestors," he called, voice like old wood. "If envy has eaten this house, spit out the bones. If love has been lied to, tell the truth with a small wind." A gust answered, the kind that wakes palm fronds and tells birds to mind their balance. The egrets lifted once, settled again, wider-eyed. The river smoothed. The Dibia nodded to Amaka. "Pour from your calabash," he said. "But it's empty," she whispered. "Pour." She tilted the calabash over the water. Something dark slid out like a secret, recognizing the door it used last time. It hit the river and bled into it, a black bloom that bit through the clarity like shame through pride. A sound went through the crowd, the sound people make when the truth finally writes its name on the wall. Obidi's jaw set. Auntie Neka's shoulders fell. A child cried and didn't know why. The Dibia spoke without ornaments. "The river does not drink lies," he said. "Ijiji onya naibu, the fly that follows wounds, has visited this house." And the hand that opened the door just confessed Amaka's knees loosened as if the ground had changed its mind about supporting her. "I didn't mean to kill," she choked. "I only wanted him to look at me once, the way he looks at her. Just once. I thought, if she slept, if she missed the wine carrying, he would have to see me. I thought it would be small. I thought—" She broke, the sentence collapsing under the weight of its own cowardice. The Dibia's voice cut like a cane used properly. "You thought you could borrow the ancestor's chair and return it without scratches." He turned to the water. "If the debt is payable," he said, "return her breath." The river answered with foam around Nkiru's lips. She coughed once, twice, small, stubborn sounds like a baby arguing with the world, and her chest climbed a little. The crowd trembled like a mat hit by wind. Auntie Neka sobbed the way rain starts after long sulk. Obidi bent, forehead to his beloved's hair, the kind of prayer that needs no words. The Dibia pointed at Amaka. "Judgment is not a song," he said. "It is work. Hear it." Umuoma did not send Amaka to a grave. The river had chosen mercy seasoned with memory, but there are punishments that sit heavier than stones. For one season, the Dibia decreed, Amaka will serve at the shrine house and the widow's yard. She will fetch water at dawn for every house that gave her mother pepper when she was hungry, and she will eat last in any place where food invites mouths. He looked at her wrists, bright with bracelets. "Remove those," he said. "Let your hands learn to be hands." To Obidi, "You will not marry until the Yam festival. Let your desire learn patience stand and build rather than lie down and dream. To Nkiru, who now breathed tenderly like a fire nursed back from ash, you will live slowly, and almost death is a jealous thing. It asks for respect. The town dispersed like a flock startled, then coaxed into calm. Gossip sprinted. The truth limped faithfully behind it. Carrying the heavier load of details, Amaka began her season of empty hands. Before sun finished swallowing the stars, she was at the stream, rope biting her palm, calabashes kissing her hips. At the widow's yard, she washed mats, hushed babies who refused to remember sleep, and scrubbed the kind of stains that do not announce themselves until you think you've finished. People watched. Some spit softly into dust and turned away. Some thanked her with nods that had not yet learned to trust. Children asked too many questions. She answered the ones she could without crying. At the shrine house, she swept the clay floor, hid her face when the masquerade passed, and learned the names of herbs that heal panic the way cool cloth heals fever. She carried broom and water and shame without making a necklace of any of them. At night, alone on the mat she now slept on by the door, Amaka held the brass locket. She traced the proverb with a thumb, learning gentleness. Love does not shout, it does. She whispered to the darkness. I shouted, I did nothing, forgive me. Umuoma, which had been keeping its breath shallow, slowly inhaled. Rain remembered the road. The mango trees laughed silently and green women began to sing again while stirring pots. Even the market flies returned to their unserious business. Nkiru's strength came back like someone who knocked softly before entering. She sat on the veranda, sipping pepper soup, watching Amaka move through the yard with humility that no longer asked for applause. One evening, a boy slipped at the river, a child who had no respect for moss. He splashed, vanished, returned, vanished again. Screams flew. Before the men could tie sense to rope, Amaka was already in the water, wrapper heavy, arms burning, eyes sharp with a new kind of courage. She reached him, tucked him under her arm the way a mother tucks a promise, and kicked the river in the stomach until it burped them both onto the bank's silence. Then noise, praise without rehearsal. The boy's mother held Amaka's face and wept into it. The Dibia, who had been watching from a shade only the old know how to find, nodded once work had begun. When the Yam Festival arrived, Umuoma dressed in the color of relief. Drummers finally remembered the way to joy. Smoke rose with ambition. Children rehearsed mischief. Elders rehearsed disapproval and secretly smiled. Obidi came to Auntie Neka's compound with cowries, wine, and a new kind of posture. A man who had chosen to be a good husband before becoming one. He knelt. He greeted. He kept his eyes with humility. Nkiru came out with a simple wrapper, the brass locket resting where promises sit. She looked at Amaka, who stood 3 steps back, hands clean, face unpainted. Sister, Nkiru said. Amaka's throat worked. She tried to speak and failed. Her eyes finished the sentence for her. She reached for Nkiru's hands. They held the way a bridge holds, quietly, feeling the weight, refusing to break. Auntie Neka coughed for ceremony. Let the wine find its owner, she said, and the laughter loosened the last of the town's fear. When Nkiru carried the gourd, she moved straight to Obidi. She lowered her eyes, but not her worth. He sipped and returned the calabash with hands a little unsteady for reasons that honored the moment. After today, the Dibia said, when it was his turn to speak, let this house remember that the ancestors do not sleep because we blow out our lamps. He gestured toward Amaka. Punishment ends. Discipline continues. Let the one who slipped keep sweeping the path others walk. Amaka nodded. I will. And let the one who was nearly stolen, he added, turning to Nkiru, treat her life like a calabash. Carry it upright. Share what it holds. Nkiru smiled. I will. That night, the sisters sat under the Udara tree the way they had when the world was younger and simpler. Legs tucked, shoulders touching. The air smelled of wood smoke and yam, and the kind of sweat that means you have lived through something and still belong to the living. Do you remember, Nkiru asked softly, what mother scratched on the locket? Amaka nodded, eyes wet. Love does not shout. It does. Nkiru leaned her head against Amaka's. Then let's do it, quietly. Somewhere beyond the compound, the masquerade passed without thunder. The river turned in its sleep. The ancestors, who listened not to speeches but to patterns, relaxed their shoulders a little and let the night be kind, moral, told like a proverb. Envy is a sweet-tongued visitor who borrows your cup and returns it with a crack you don't notice until water leaks on your lap. Love is not a shout. It is the hand that fetches water at dawn, the mouth that tells the truth before the river must, the feet that run into danger to pull a child from a jealous current. If you must choose, choose the quiet work over the loud feeling. For the ancestors are watching, not to catch you, but to correct you. And when judgment comes, may it find you already doing the work that mercy requires.